The taste of copper filled my mouth as my mother's whispered words cut through the restaurant noise. Tell Nathan to change her locks tonight, while everyone's distracted by cake. I bit down harder on my tongue, the metallic flavor spreading as I watched my father nod toward my brother, like this was normal family business. My grip tightened around my fork until the metal edges pressed deep into my palm. Through the haze of clinking glasses and forced birthday laughter, I heard my brother's chair scrape against the floor. Keys jingled in his pocket as he stood, avoiding my eyes completely. The birthday cake sat untouched in front of me, its frosting roses suddenly looking like tiny graves. My name is Lauren. I'm 29 and a forensic accountant. This is the story of how I discovered my family's most dangerous secret wasn't the one they were hiding from me. It was the one they were hiding behind me. For weeks, I'd been finding subtle signs someone had been in my apartment. A document slightly askew on my desk. My laptop moved an inch to the left. I'd started leaving tiny markers. A hair across my drawer. A pen positioned exactly parallel to my notebook. Every time I came home, something was disturbed. I'd suspected my building's maintenance staff. Maybe the landlord doing informal inspections. But sitting at this birthday dinner, watching my own brother leave to run an errand, the pieces clicked into place with sickening clarity. They weren't just planning to change my locks tonight. They'd been planning this for months. When Nathan returned an hour later, his face had gone ash gray, the kind of pale that happens when someone discovers something they weren't supposed to see. Mom noticed immediately, her fork freezing halfway to her mouth. "Did you do it?" she asked, voice barely audible above the restaurant's ambient noise. Nathan's voice cracked. "Mom, there's police tape around her door." The entire table went silent. Dad's wine glass stopped midway to his lips. Even the couple at the next table seemed to pause their conversation. "What kind of tape?" Mom demanded, her composure fracturing for the first time in years. "Crime scene tape. There's an officer posted outside. He said there was an incident. No one's allowed inside?" My phone buzzed against the table. Officer Grant, Portland PD, flashed across the screen with a message that made my blood freeze. "Ms. Lauren Reeves, please contact us immediately regarding a break-in at your residence." I stood slowly, feeling everyone's eyes track my movement. The restaurant suddenly felt too bright, too loud, too small. "Where are you going?" Mom's voice had taken on that sharp edge I knew meant panic. I picked up my phone and looked directly at her. "To find out what you were so desperate to steal from me." The drive to my apartment complex felt like traveling through a nightmare. 2 patrol cars sat outside, their red and blue lights painting the building's brick walls in alternating shadows. Officer Grant approached my car before I'd even turned off the engine. "Ms. Reeves, I'm glad you got our message. We need to discuss what happened here tonight." I followed him up the stairwell, my heart hammering against my ribs. My apartment door hung open, the lock mechanism completely destroyed. But inside, everything looked almost normal, except for one detail that made my stomach drop. Every framed photo of my son, Liam, had been turned face down on the tables. On my coffee table sat a single white envelope that hadn't been there this morning. "That was left on your couch," Officer Grant said. "We haven't opened it. We were waiting for you." My hands trembled as I tore it open. Inside was a printed message in Standard Times New Roman font. "Your mother needs to learn that secrets always surface. Tell her the audit trail leads back to her." The words blurred as I read them again. This wasn't random. Someone knew about my work, about my family, about things I'd never told anyone. "Officer Grant," I said slowly, "I think this break-in is connected to my family." He pulled out his notebook. "In what way?" I took a deep breath. "My mother just tried to have my locks changed tonight, and I think I know why." The next morning brought 3 missed calls from my mother and a voicemail from Officer Grant that changed everything. "Ms. Reeves, we've traced the payment for the break-in. It was made from a bank account under your mother's name." I sat in my car outside the police station, staring at my phone. My own mother had hired someone to break into my home. But why? What could she possibly need that badly? Then I remembered the box I'd found last month while cleaning, labeled Dad's business papers in Mom's handwriting. Inside were property deeds, financial statements, and documents I'd barely glanced at before storing them in my closet. Documents that showed properties owned jointly by my parents, but never declared on tax returns. Documents that used my Social Security number on accounts I'd never opened. Documents that could send them both to prison. My phone rang. Mom's contact photo filled the screen, a family portrait from 5 years ago when we all still pretended to be close. "Lauren, we need to talk." Her voice was steady, but I heard the underlying current of fear. "No, we don't," I said calmly. "We need to stop talking. Permanently." "You don't understand what you're dealing with." I laughed, surprising myself with how bitter it sounded. "I'm a forensic accountant, Mom. I understand exactly what I'm dealing with. The question is, do you?" That evening, she stood at my door precisely at 7 p.m., dressed like she was attending a board meeting instead of facing her daughter whose home she'd violated. Her perfume hit me first. Expensive, suffocating, familiar. "You shouldn't have involved the police," she said, stepping inside without invitation. I crossed my arms. "You shouldn't have committed felonies in my name." Her carefully controlled expression cracked slightly. "Everything we did was to protect this family." "Everything you did was to protect yourselves, using my identity as cover for your tax evasion, my Social Security number on offshore accounts, my name on property deeds for houses I've never seen." She went completely still, the kind of stillness that comes before an explosion. "You went through those papers." "I'm a forensic accountant, Mom. Did you think I wouldn't notice my own financial identity being stolen?" For the first time in my life, I saw fear in her eyes, real, undiluted terror. "If you report this, your father will go to prison. Our family will lose everything." I met her stare directly. "Your family might lose everything. I'm starting to build a family that doesn't lie, steal, and manipulate." She moved toward me, her voice dropping to that manipulative whisper she'd perfected over the years. "Lauren, honey, you don't want to destroy us. We're your parents." "You destroyed yourselves the moment you forged my signature." I pulled out my phone and showed her the recording app, already running. Her face went white. "You've been recording me?" "I've been protecting myself, something I should have learned to do years ago." She lunged for my phone, but I stepped back smoothly. "It's already uploaded to cloud storage, Mom, along with copies of every document in that box, every bank statement, every forged signature, every account opened fraudulently in my name." She sank onto my couch, her perfect posture finally collapsing. "You'll regret this," she whispered. I knelt down to meet her eyes. "Maybe, but at least my regrets will be my own." Thunder rolled outside, matching the storm that had been building in this family for years. After she left, I called Officer Grant. "I'm ready to file the full report." The investigation moved faster than I expected. Within a week, federal agents were reviewing the documents I'd provided. My parents' assets were frozen pending audit, their business accounts seized. Dad resigned from his company before he could be terminated. Mom stopped calling, not out of respect, but out of legal advice. The local news ran the story. Prominent business couple under investigation for identity theft and tax evasion. Daughter reported as victim. I didn't watch the coverage. I already knew the headline that mattered. I was free. 3 months later, I sat in a federal courtroom watching my parents plead guilty to multiple financial crimes. They each received 2 years in minimum security prison and full restitution of stolen funds. Dad sat quietly throughout the proceedings, his shoulders sagging with defeat. When the judge announced the sentences, he simply nodded once, a man who had finally accepted the consequences of his choices. As they were led away in handcuffs, my mother looked back at me one last time. No anger, no pleading, just the hollow recognition of someone who had gambled everything and lost. That night, I picked up Liam from daycare and took him for ice cream. He chattered about his day, his toy cars, his friends. Normal 7-year-old concerns in a world where adults could be trusted to protect rather than exploit. "Mom, you seem different," he said, chocolate chip mint dripping down his chin. I smiled, reaching over to wipe his face. "Different how?" happier, like you're not scared anymore. Out of the mouths of babes. 3 months later, I used the $127,000 in restitution money as a down payment on our first real home. Not an apartment with locks that could be changed without permission, but a house with Liam's name and mine on the deed. Meanwhile, Nathan had moved across the country to Seattle, cutting all contact with the family after refusing to testify on our parents' behalf. He'd called me once to apologize for his role in the lock-changing plan, explaining that he'd felt trapped between loyalty and conscience. I told him I understood, but that I needed space to heal. He respected that boundary. The moving truck arrived on a Saturday morning. As we carried boxes into our new kitchen, Liam found a photo that had fallen out of a storage container, the old family portrait from my parents' living room. "Do you want to keep this, Mom?" I looked at the image. My parents flanking Liam and me, everyone smiling at the camera. A perfect family moment built on lies I hadn't yet discovered. "No, sweetie, we're making new pictures now." He grinned and tossed it into the donation box without a second thought. That evening, after Liam was asleep, I stood in our backyard watching fireflies blink against the darkness. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Saw the news about your parents. You did the right thing, Officer Grant." I typed back. "Thank you for believing me. Thank you for protecting yourself." I looked up at the stars, visible now that we lived outside the city. Clean, distant, honest light. For the first time in years, silence didn't feel like punishment. It felt like peace. If you're reading this and recognizing the knot in your stomach, the way your family's love comes with conditions and manipulation, the way your boundaries get trampled in the name of loyalty, I see you. You're not crazy. You're not ungrateful. You're not destroying your family by protecting yourself. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is refuse to enable the people who hurt you, even when they share your DNA. Sometimes family isn't about blood. It's about building something healthier for the people who depend on you. Trust your instincts, document everything, and remember, you can't save someone who's determined to drown themselves, but you can absolutely refuse to let them pull you under. Before you go, here's a quick bonus for sticking around. If you love learning and growing like I do, you need to try audiobooks. I've got an exclusive deal with Audible. Your first month is completely free. That's access to over 500,000 titles, zero cost to you. All the details are waiting in the description. Don't miss this one.